LeBron James holding up the NBA. Welcome to the Sports Playbook. I am Daniel, and we are Australia's weekly sports news podcast covering men's and women's sports. So here's the week in sports and everything coming up this weekend. In basketball, LeBron James is holding up the league. LeBron James is currently a free agent, and the NBA, because of this, is on hold until LeBron James makes his next move. So right now, LeBron has the NBA in the palm of his hands. The 41-year-old has decided that the LA Lakers is not going to be his home for the new season coming up. So he's the hottest free agent, but he hasn't selected which team he's going to. This has even got NBA Commissioner Adam Silver feeling a little bit nervous, and he's asked LeBron James to hurry up his decision because the NBA schedule for the 2026-2027 season is on hold, waiting for LeBron to make his move. Here are the potential clubs that are realistic and are in the race. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the Miami Heat, the Philadelphia 76ers. Those three have emerged as the leading destinations. Golden State Warriors are still in the play here, but it looks like it might be the Miami Heat. And this has come about through something we didn't expect, because Miami Heat have posted a YouTube video saying LeBron James coming home. Now this plays into the fact that LeBron was at the Miami Heat previously in his career. The Miami Heat have taken this video down and they've put it into private mode. So have the Miami Heat just linked that LeBron is going to Miami? One to watch for basketball and for sport fans in general. In rugby league, the Dragons have committed to Dean Young as their coach. Dean Young will now be the new permanent head coach of the St George Illawarra Dragons. Dean took over from Shane Flanagan just before Anzac Day this year, as Shane Flanagan was sacked as head coach at the time. Now Dean has just been rewarded for his efforts from 2026 by receiving a 2-year contract for 2027 and 2028. But what's been revealed by Code Sports, this hasn't been acknowledged by the Dragons, but there is an option in the St George Illawarra Dragons' favour that they can extend Dean Young for a 3rd year. Now what's interesting here is they can extend this deal, and there's no performance benchmarks that Dean has to hit for that option to be activated by the Dragons. For Dean, he beat out his close friend and former teammate Ben Hornby for the role. Ben Hornby is currently an assistant coach for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, but for Dean Young, he's been rewarded for all the work that he's done with the Dragons in 2026. Now, the Dragons haven't gone on to win many more games since Dean has been coach, but the big thing here is their improvement in their demeanour, their enthusiasm, and they're having close games with those big clubs. They almost beat the Warriors last week, and they were definitely filthy with the referees, especially in that game. But what it's showing is the Dragons are setting a high benchmark for their coming years. With 5 big name players coming to the club in 2027, this will be an exciting year for the Dragons. This fan base has been wanting to make the finals in a long time, and they haven't been able to do that under their previous coaches. So can Dean Young bring final success, or just make it to the finals as head coach? Also in NRL, Anthony Seibold is now at the PNG Chiefs. Anthony Seibold has only been out of rugby league for a little while, but he's back again. For Seibold, he will now be returning as an assistant coach for the PNG Chiefs. For Seibold, he will be as assistant coach underneath Willie Peters, who Willie will be the head coach for the Chiefs. What's interesting here about Anthony Seibold is that he's been the head coach for 3 NRL clubs now: the South Sydney Rabbitohs, the Brisbane Broncos, and Manly Sea Eagles. More recently, with the Manly Sea Eagles and being sacked 3 rounds into the 2026 season before Fosball took over for the club. If you're looking from Seibold's perspective, I would say this is his last shot when it comes to NRL, because he's been given plenty of opportunity to showcase his talent within the game. It's been a massive week for the PNG Chiefs, and this is because Joey Manu, who is currently playing French rugby as we speak, took a tour of the facilities in PNG. Now, what's Joey Manu's situation? He is currently signed with French rugby until the end of 2027, which means when the Chiefs come in for 2028, you guessed it, he's off contract. What's fascinating here is the PNG Chiefs are going after Joey Manu and Zach Lomax. Both of these players have taken tours of the facilities in PNG, but what will be key here is which player will the Chiefs go after? Or do they go after both? Do they make the super team that everyone is talking about and secure the services of Manu and Lomax? One to watch here, but they'll be under the assistant coach if they join this club, being Anthony Seibold. In netball, the New South Wales Swifts sign an assistant coach. The Swifts have started to lock in their pieces for their new era in 2027. And a key part of this new era is Joe Harton being signed on as assistant coach for the New South Wales Swifts. And this has all come off the back of Bryony Akel no longer receiving a contract for the New South Wales Swifts after 9 years of service. But it also comes 1 week after Dylan Nexep has just been appointed new head coach of the New South Wales Swifts. For Jo, she joined the coaching ranks at the New South Wales Swifts under Bryony Akel in 2026, mainly as a specialist coach looking after the shooters to Helen Housby, Grace White, and Grace Wecky. For Jo, she previously played at Giants Netball up until the end of the 2025 season where she retired for this club. But this is a brand new era for the New South Wales Swifts. And what will be interesting here is how many players do the Swifts retain going forward into 2027? Do they look to clean slate and keep a couple of key players, or do they stick to what they know best and keep majority of their playing group for 2027? That is this week's big stories. And now it's time to head into the talking point. And this week's talking point is also netball, but it's Netball New Zealand's competition and potentially no more. Where this has come from, the ANZ Premiership, which is the top tier domestic league for netball in New Zealand, is in serious doubt. This comes as all teams, including players and coaches, have received a concerning email from Netball New Zealand. In this email, what it highlighted is all contracts, that's for players, for coaches, for staff, and everyone else, their contracts will not be extended beyond July 31st of 2026, which means that is less than a fortnight's time. This is incredibly concerning, not only for Netball New Zealand, but netball and the entire ecosystem. Now, what's interesting here is they're still working through what the competition will look like for 2027. So there is a chance this league still continues, but there is serious concerns. There is no broadcast agreement that's been locked in, and there's no collective bargaining agreement that's signed on. So this means it's in a similar situation with Super Netball around the collective bargaining agreement. But Super Netball is protected because it has a wider broadcast agreement in place. So for New Zealand, it's not unusual, but what's concerning is the fact that everyone is off contract at the same time. Now, if the ANZ Premiership doesn't get up for 2027, this could be a major concern, especially for Super Netball for 2027. Now, the reason being is for Super Netball, they are only allowed to have 11 players within their squads. So 10 players plus an 11th player rather, which is normally one of their training partners that they're elevating into the team. Now, what's interesting here, more times than not all the players can stay within those squads because they're quite small. So often they will have to go to the Super League in the UK, or they will have to go to the ANZ Championship in New Zealand. Now, if there's no ANZ Premiership here, what this means is there's a large batch potentially of New Zealand domestic talent and potentially Australian domestic talent that can't get professional contracts to play netball. So in turn, what does that mean? It likely means players will no longer be able to play professional netball because there's not enough teams to facilitate these players. This is a big concern and one to watch going forward. I'm hoping that the ANZ Premiership can lock in a broadcast agreement and then very soon after lock in that collective bargaining agreement. Because if not, this is a major disruption to the netball ecosystem. That was this week's talking point. So let's head into the weekend preview. What's coming up this weekend? In Formula One, it's the Hungarian Grand Prix. This is the last race before the summer break. And this feels quite weird to say, especially because there was a large break just after the Japanese Grand Prix due to what's happening currently in the world. Now, Kimi Antonelli, he leads the championship from Lewis Hamilton with a 45-point buffer, which means if Kimi Antonelli didn't finish the race at the Hungarian Grand Prix, he would still have, at the bare minimum, a 20-point buffer back. That is just incredible. The gap that Antonelli has built over the first part of 2026 has been seriously impressive. Now, Antonelli is also 50 points clear of his closest teammate in George Russell. This is a massive concern for George because George at the start of the year was right in the running to potentially win the championship and take the fight to Kimi Antonelli. Now, George is absolutely nowhere, and I'm sure that this will be ruffling the feathers of George and his team of engineers when it comes to the Mercedes team. Now, McLaren, they did well here at the Hungarian Grand Prix last year, but I'm not sure if they'll still have the pace here. Max at Red Bull Racing, he was on the podium last weekend at the Belgian Grand Prix. Will he be on the podium again? I'm not so sure. One to watch here, being the last break before the summer break, we might see a couple of upgrade packages for the Hungarian Grand Prix, but if not, they will all come 4 weeks after at the Dutch Grand Prix at the end of August. So one to watch for Formula One fans. In netball, the Australian Diamonds will take on Tonga, and this is on Saturday, July 25th at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Now, this is an important game because for the Diamonds, it's the first game of the Commonwealth Games. It's being held in Glasgow, Scotland. Now, we don't know exactly who's going to be in the starting 7, but for the Diamonds, they have a lot riding on this campaign. They are coming into the Commonwealth Games as defending champions. They beat Jamaica back in 2022, but they'll have stiff competition up against England, Jamaica, New Zealand, the Silver Ferns. This will be a really key game for them to get off on the right foot. So go to the Diamonds. I hope they do a great job. And final game of the round, Rugby League. The Knights, they'll take on the Roosters. This is on Friday, the 24th of July at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Massive news for the Roosters, but James Tedesco and Robert Toya will both be back for the Roosters. For the Roosters, they've massively missed Tedesco in the last few weeks, but they've still got victories, which is key heading into this finals campaign. For the Roosters, they currently sit third in the competition. For the Knights, they are currently 6th in the competition. So both teams are in that top 8 and they're jostling for position. They're trying to cement their place in where they'll be within the finals. For the Roosters, it's key to stay in that top 4 because you get a second chance in the final series. For the Knights, they are looking to get into that top 4. So that is your sports week sorted. So enjoy the weekend and I'll be back on Monday with a full wrap from the weekend in sports. So until then, follow the Sports Playbook. We are your go-to for fast sport news without the noise. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and wherever you see us on social media, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It'd be really appreciated if you could send this podcast to one more person who needs their fast sport news with no noise. Thank you for tuning in. We will catch you on the next episode.